For those of you who might be new this morning, we're going to meditate for approximately half hour, a few minutes, give or take, and then we're going to have some teaching and then a chance for dialogue with you, which is, of course, my favorite part. So let's sit together. And do I have, yes, I do have a bell, a big bell that brought back from Bodh Gaya. Bodh Gaya is in northern India, in the province of Bihar, and it's sort of the belly button of the Buddhist universe because it's where the Buddha got enlightened under the Bodhi tree, and you can go and do pilgrimage there. And there is actually a grandchild of that tree that is still there. And you see pilgrims every time the wind blows, a few leaves rustle, dry leaves fall off the tree, and you see people rushing to grab one of the leaves for a souvenir. And because that tree was there, and then a sapling, a sample, or, I guess whatever you call it, a piece of that tree, there's a name for that, was taken as a gift to Sri Lanka by King Ashoka's daughter, where it grew and flourished and got huge and they live a long time. And then a piece of that tree was brought back to Bodh Gaya in the 19th century. So for this moment, we're all sitting under that tree, taking a deep breath in, relaxing, breathing out, and another deep breath in, breathing in the aliveness of this moment, and releasing any tension in your body as you breathe out. And one more intentional deep breath in, and relaxing as you breathe out. And just allowing the breath to flow in its own natural rhythm. Appreciating this activity of sensing and feeling the breath in the body. If for any reason the breath is not a soothing subject for your meditation, just tune into the sensations in the body, the sounds of life appearing and vanishing, arising, having their being, and fading away. The Bodhi tree means the tree of awakening. And as we sit together, alert, present, mindful, this is it. There's no other place to wake up but right here right now. And we practice letting go of everything that came before this moment and all the thoughts and plans about what may follow this moment. And breath by breath, moment by moment, we're deepening the trust that this moment carries all the ingredients we need to wake up. We're going to sprinkle some loving kindness on these moments, appreciating the kindness of the breath that sustains our life. It's kind of like a good mom, always here, whether we're appreciating or noticing it or not. The breath breathing us, breathing you, breathing me. Breathing all life. And offering some loving kindness to yourself, some appreciation for all of your efforts to live as best you can. And if you feel like it, dropping in a few phrases that carry that blessing energy of kindness and care and love. May I be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May I be safe. May I be truly peaceful and deeply happy. May I live with the ease of an open, friendly heart. May I take time to rest and care for myself joyfully. May my heart be steady through the ups and downs of this world. May I appreciate my life completely, just as it is. May I love myself completely, just the way I am. If that feels too steep, how about may I accept myself completely, just the way I am? Then offering loving kindness. Offering loving kindness to whoever you want. Maybe your mother, maybe someone who's having a hard time, maybe people living in a conflict zone, surviving, maybe all beings everywhere without exception. May all beings be safe and protected. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with the ease of an open, friendly heart. And for whoever you're directing these friendly wishes of metta, of loving kindness, we can simply say, and it can be all beings, may you be happy and live in peace. May you be healthy and strong. May you be free from troubles and worries. May you be free from fear and suffering. May you have the inner and outer resources you need. May you be able to rest and care for yourself joyfully. And may you love, may you accept yourself completely, just the way you are. And if you have walked with another human in caring and love or friendship, you are a mother. May all mothers be safe, happy, healthy, and free. And if you have cared for, raised, nurtured other beings, animals, or plants, count yourself in, celebrate yourself this holiday. May you too be safe, happy, healthy, and free. Oh, thank you all for being here. It's so different sitting in a group than sitting on your own, isn't it? You can feel the energy. This is why I think in the early days of Buddhism, and they sat in community. They lived and sat in community. When you're just doing it all by yourself every day, well, sometimes it's wonderful. Sometimes it's lonesome and a little depressing. So That's why we do this. And it's just an incredible joy for me to be back here with all of you. So I want to talk today about how really all motherers, I like to be inclusive about this because really, somebody was thanking me as I came in for mothering InsightLA, and I was remembering a friend of mine said, I am never going to start a nonprofit watching how you have to mother everybody. Well, I didn't have to, but I enjoyed it. I mean, that's the thing about mothering. It's the hardest job in the world. And we'll get to Father's Day, but it's the hardest, believe me, we'll get there. But it's the hardest job in the world, but the love part, you just do it. It makes it, I won't say it makes it easy, but they are easy to love. And I also want to acknowledge that, some parents are impaired and not everybody got to have the most loving parent, a mother. And I want to acknowledge too all the moms that are facing hardship, whether it's financial or they're being detained or they're in conflict zones or people who have just lost their mom, just to acknowledge the grief of that. But I want to talk about how all mothers are bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are beings who basically dedicate their lives to being of service to others. And um, and while I talk, I want you, as you listen, reflect on how you're caring for yourself, because many of you here are nurturing many other beings. And Vesak, I mean, it's interesting because the Buddha's mother died shortly after giving birth to him, and his aunt stepped in and became his foster mother and raised him. And yet years later, when he became the Buddha and he had his community and she wanted to join the community, he said, no, I'm sorry, that would just be, meanwhile, he was like welcoming all castes of people. It was so radical for those days in India to welcome noble people and untouchable outcast castes. But no, women couldn't join. He was so sorry. And, Ananda, his attendant and his cousin had to talk him into it before he said yes, which he did, of course. But to me, it's just sort of an example of this unspoken expectations that mothers just give. They just give and are very unsung heroes. And it's nice to have this day, but this day should be every day. It really should. So just reflect as you listen to me on what you offer to the world, because you all do in one way or another, and how you care for yourself, because it's important. If I suddenly start smiling a lot, it's because I then see somebody that I haven't seen for a long time, like, oh, you're here too. It's just very joyful. And there's our Mother Earth too, right? The indigenous people revere Mother Earth, and it's just part of life. And ancestral knowledge teaches that all life is a blessing and we could revere all life, and that women are the givers of life. And yes, we need men and we need everybody, people who don't decide to be women or men, because they're going to be available to take care of your kids when you need help. So the indigenous world understood something that our world, I'm talking about our Western world mostly, seems to have forgotten about revering the earth and remembering that we are cared for by the earth. The earth is mothering us every minute, and the trees are bodhisattvas, giving oxygen to us. And somehow we've forgotten to acknowledge the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth that supports and makes our life possible, our ultimate mother. And I've been looking for Buddhism is a little sparse on Tibetan Buddhism has much richer tradition of explicitly honoring feminine beings that represent the feminine. Like in the original Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, it said that when Amitabha Buddha had to face the grief and the suffering of the world, like his brain just exploded into a million pieces. Now, being a Buddha, it would reconstitute, so don't worry. But these are legends, okay? So one of the pieces became Avalokiteshvara, which is the embodiment of compassion. In the Buddhist cosmology, all of these figures and deities are representations of our own consciousness and the powers of our own hearts. They are not external deities that we worship. We worship our capacities as human beings and what's possible for our hearts when we practice and cultivate. There's this goddess Mamaki, and she considers all beings to be her children. And she represents the wisdom of equality because nobody is worth more in her eyes than anyone else. Now, this is very idealistic because we know that even trees know who their children are and will take care of, send nutrients to their own offspring before they send nutrients to others in the forest, which they will also do and help each other out. But their kids come first. So, yeah. I want to read you a poem that I love about this, about mothers. This is a poem by Billy Collins. He says, no cookie nibbled by a French novelist, he's referring to Proust's Madeleine, no cookie nibbled by a French novelist could send one into the past more suddenly, a past where I sat at a workbench at a camp by a deep Adirondack lake, learning how to braid long, thin plastic strips into a lanyard, a gift for my mother. How many of you have woven one? I have at camp, Campfire Girl Camp. I had never seen anyone use a lanyard or wear one, if that's what you did with them, but that didn't keep me from crossing strand over strand again and again until I had made a boxy plastic red and white lanyard for my mother. She gave me life and milk from her breasts, and I gave her a lanyard. She nursed me in many a sick room, lifted spoons of medicine to my lips, laid cold face cloths on my forehead, and then led me out into the airy light and taught me to walk and swim. And I, in turn, presented her with a lanyard. Here are thousands of medals, she said. Here's clothing, thousands of meals, excuse me, thousands of meals. God, remember those countless meals. And here is clothing and a good education. And here is your lanyard, I replied, which I made with a little help from a counselor. Here's a breathing body and a beating heart, strong legs, bones, and teeth, and two clear eyes to read the world. She whispered, and here, I said, is the lanyard I made at camp. And here, I wish to say to her now, is a smaller gift, not the worn truth that you can never repay your mother, but the rueful admission that when she took the two-tone lanyard from my hand, I was as sure as a boy could be that this useless, worthless thing I wove out of boredom would be enough to make us even. Poets, thank you. And there really is this natural impulse to give that kids have if their parents show them how. It makes them joyful to do it. Little kids. Our 6-year-old grandson, his school class organized a party for the moms. And at the party, the kids served the refreshments and they poured the lemonade and they were just beaming. I mean, they were so happy to be able to do it. I miss my mom. How many of you still have your moms? And I won't ask whether you're glad or sad, but mostly I hope you're glad that you still have them. My mom was 88 when she died in Marina Del Rey, where we happen to live now, not the exact same apartment, but there. in 2008. It was 6 years after I started InsightLA. And she was a good mom. As long as she was alive, she would send each of us, I had a brother and a sister. I still have a sister who lives here, glad to say. She would send each of us a Valentine. And, one of those, the kind of Valentines you send to everybody in elementary school, that kind. And then she would paste red hearts on the back of the envelope, all over the envelope, actually, front and back. And then she would sign it SWAK. Do you know what that means? Right. Sealed with a kiss. She did this all the way to when I was a grandmother, pretty much the exact same card with the exact same hearts. And those sweet wishes didn't vary. And I have to say, now that she's gone, I mean, I guess I took those cards for granted at the time. And it was her way of appreciating the constancy. I didn't appreciate in some way. You take for granted the constancy of that love. And it's a good thing. You want to be able to take it for granted, but not without appreciating. That's the thing. That's what I love about that poem. And my mom's attitude towards us, she was astonished, I think, that we appeared at all. We were the byproducts of her love for my father. They were the main attraction for each other. And they loved us, but we were mostly like these miracles that had come out of their love. And yes, so when we wanted to become people in our own right, we weren't babies, we weren't toddlers, we weren't adoring our parents anymore. We were 12, maybe. I think we started fighting when I was 11, and we started shouting at each other when I was 12. That was harder because she felt rejected, that I didn't want to be exactly like her. And I didn't appreciate how much she sacrificed of her own life to be my mom. And she didn't know how to take care of herself. I don't know how many mothers in the 50s and early knew how to there wasn't even a thing of taking care of yourself in those days. And she didn't know how. She didn't know how. She didn't know what we have learned, that the Bodhisattva needs to take care of herself inwardly and outwardly. Inwardly with our practice, and outwardly with some rest, with some, nice food, with the things that you've learned to take care of yourself. Because in the end, what really matters for the Bodhisattva is SWAK, that you can offer that to yourself. And I had to learn what my mother didn't know. And I started out not knowing at all. I used to ride my bike 20 miles a day from Watertown to MIT, which is all the way on the other end of Cambridge, with my daughter on the back of the bicycle, drop her at a really good daycare that they had at MIT, go back to my classes in graduate school in Harvard Square, and then go back to MIT and pick her up and then drive back to ride. That was a wishful thinking, ride back to Watertown. That was 20 miles a day and 14 of them with a 4-year-old on the back of the bicycle. We didn't have helmets then either. I didn't know how to take care of myself then. But you can't just keep pedaling miles and miles, you guys. You have to stop and take care of yourself. How does the Bodhisattva take care of herself? This is a question for all of you. And I'm very honored to have you here, Jonathan, who's the rabbi of Temple Emmanuel. How do you take care of yourself, ministering to so many people? And you, Michelle, who've chosen to be here on Mother's Day, the rabbi's wife, and a professional and an artist and an actor in your own right. Yeah, how do you take care of yourself? And when we sit, we make a timeless gesture. We just sit down and we be quiet. We take a deep breath. My first teacher used to say, take 3 deep breaths. That's what I still do. It's like just a kind of signal to my body and my heart and my mind. This time is for me. This time is for you. Each one of us, when we sit to express ourselves fully. We see all of who we are in meditation, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, the sublime, the disgusting, all of who we are. We get to express ourselves fully in this timeless space of presence and acceptance, and hopefully a little bit of love. And then the more you practice, the more joy comes into the picture. And we all need to practice with the courage. It takes a lot of courage to live a life. It really does. There's somebody in our extended family who has to try to survive every single day because of a neurological difficulty that they have. And but for all of us, it takes courage. And at the end of this month, actually before the end of the month, May 23rd, Jack and I are going to Oslo to the Human Rights Conference, the Oslo Freedom Forum. There we work with fellows. They're called the Freedom Fellows. It's a group of activists from all over the world, from autocracies all over the world, who have been given a year of mentoring. And these are people who have all decided and done, they've really risked their lives, their very lives, for freedoms or for the environment in their countries. And all of them have been imprisoned, many of them tortured, some of them abducted. And every year when we gather with the fellows, this is only my second year. I wasn't able to go last year because I was recovering from an illness, but every year there's an acknowledgement because the fellows come back and they meet the beginning fellows, the graduating ones, and they connect with each other. And there's an acknowledgement. There's always a couple people who are not there, who have either been killed or just are in prison, but they're not able to be there. That's high octane bodhisattva. And that's not for most people. There aren't that many people in the world who are willing to do that, to risk their lives to protect our forests and freedoms. But boy, it's pretty inspiring to see that there are. And it, I think, can inspire us to maybe just stretch a little bit. There's a beautiful quote from Margaret Renke. She writes about nature, and she says, "The need to protect and nurture the young." And I quote this because the more you sit, and many of you have discovered this, the more you sit, the more the compassionate impulse comes alive in you. I know you've experienced that. Yeah. The need to protect and nurture young is a biological imperative shared by a surprising array of creatures. The lioness purring as she licks her cub's belly, the fox carrying her kit to safety by the scruff of its neck, or nurturing animals that we don't associate with nurturing at all, like the wolf spider carrying her tiny little spiderlings on her back, the alligator tenderly carrying her baby in her jaws, the timber rattlesnake protectively encircling her little hatchlings, the broad-headed skink. Do you know what a skink is? It's a kind of lizard that has a broad head and smoother scales. I looked it up. Guarding her eggs silently in the dark. And when we appreciate this, we realize we're a creature too. We are. And I love this dialogue that happened thousands of years ago between Queen Malika and King Pasenadi of Kosala. They were followers of the Buddha. And one time he was on the upper terrace of the palace with Queen Malika. And he said to her, "Malika, is there anyone dearer to you than you yourself?" And Malika answered, "Your Majesty." I noticed he didn't call her Your Majesty. Maybe he actually did. I just wasn't there in the sutra. It's called the Malika Sutra. Your Majesty, there is no one dearer to me than myself. And they both agree that there's no one dearer to themselves than themselves. And then the king went down from the palace and visited the Buddha. It was like, is this okay that we love ourselves the best? He told him the whole story. And the Buddha was very understanding. And he said, though in thought we range throughout the world, it's true, isn't it? Our thoughts, they go everywhere. We'll nowhere find a thing more dear than self. And this is the cool part. So then he goes on to say, so since others hold the self so dear, I mean, if we do, others do, he or she, they who love themselves should injure none. So, right? So when you hear a baby cry and you pick it up, or, a kitty cat is stuck up a tree, or whatever it might be, you're also loving yourself and wrapping your arms and your mind around yourself, because what we do to take care of this self is also taking care of the bigger self, this world that we all inhabit together. And it's important because when I was young, in those early days, and I heard these Bodhisattva teachings, I felt inspired at first, and then I got sort of angry. And I was like, wait a minute. As a woman, I am already kind of conditioned to serve others before myself. At least in those days, we were. And, I think these are teachings that maybe we have to emphasize that if we don't include ourselves in that circle of compassion, it's not so complete. And just in this time that we've been talking, well, I've been talking, but you're going to get a chance soon, very soon. Just in this time that I've been talking, millions of acts of care have been happening around the world with humans, animals, millions of acts of care. And it's really important to remember all the parents dressing their child to go out in the cold, all the parents scrounging for food for their kids, making food, these are acts of loving kindness. The Buddha said there's physical acts like that. There's mental acts, thinking good thoughts, there's both. And there's community acts. And in this fragmented, political times where 2 years ago, I learned in Oslo that 60% of countries were autocracies. It's 72% 2 years later. So in this kind of landscape, that the world is really crying out for the wisdom of this practice that you embody by being here, all of you, and the power to care for each other that is sustained. It doesn't come from our practice, it comes from our humanity, but it's sustained by our practice. And you can look around the room, right? And just see all the Bodhisattvas sitting here, right here in this room, for sure. So I'm going to stop with a quote from Gilda Radner. Remember her? Motherhood is the biggest gamble in the world. It's the glorious life force. It's huge and scary. It's an act of infinite optimism. And I think everything we do here is an act of infinite optimism. And we really need that hope and optimism. And the Buddha, I know I said I was stopping, this is the end. The Buddha was really clear, even go among the inflicted with an unafflicted heart. Go among the troubled, untroubled. Be joyful, even in the midst of a suffering world, because guess what? It does not help the world for you to suffer on the world's behalf. Caring is different. So These are some of the things I want to share with you this morning. And thank you for your listening. And now I think we have a mic. Alexis? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you, Alexis, for being here. Sunday in, Sunday out. Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
This is the time for, I call it Q&R, questions and reflections, questions and responses, because I certainly don't have the answers. But if you have something to share, and it can be a simple question about your practice, or it can be, because that I actually have had some experience with, or it can be just a reflection. It doesn't have to be about the talk, just whatever you're moved to share.
Beautiful. And also
there's a couple people.
It's such a joy to have Trudy be here. And so when you're sharing your question or reflection, just keep in mind, we want to be able to let everyone have a chance.
Thank you. And
well.
also, Alexis, can you see if people online have something?
Yes.
Okay,
So-
good.
Thank you for your words. I trip up, like conceptually, I understand what you're saying about the compassion for self allows you to put yourself still first while you're finding the cat that needs you to save them down from the tree. But in practice, I don't really understand.
I think the confusing part was the story about Queen Malika and King Pasenadi, because I mean, there's layers to these stories, of course, always. And the deeper we get, the more layers we can see. But they're talking about their sense of self, the sense of self where we care so much about ourselves. And that's a reality. They're not really, here's a way to say it. There's no one more worthy of your love and affection than you yourself. And there's no one less worthy of your love and affection than you yourself. That's really the message. Since everybody holds their self dear, not only you shouldn't hurt them, but you can appreciate that that's so. That, and if I've been trained out of caring about myself at all, well, depending on how I'm actually living, that could be a beautiful thing or a sad thing, right? Even the activists in Oslo who have trained themselves, right, that way, they burn out. They get hopeless. They fall into despair looking around the world. It's not easy to be a mindful humanitarian. I love Jocelyn coined that phrase when we were in the refugee camps together in Chad, in Eastern Chad with the Darfuri refugees. It's not easy. So, it was easy for us. You go for a couple weeks, but it's not easy to sustain that, right? So even they need, and they resist. We have to talk them into this, doing some practices of self-care, and why meditation isn't a frivolous extra. Yeah, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too. If everybody just say your name before, and then, because we don't have name tags today, and name tags are kind of helpful because I see people that maybe I've seen you for years and I know that I used to know your name and I'm embarrassed that I have forgotten it. Or it's good to have them.
I'm Jeff.
I remember you because you used to come to sitting group online during the pandemic and you would be on your treadmill. Wasn't that you?
Yes. Oh my God.
So
yes.
Here would be Jeff talking to us.
It was a stepper, but yes, it was my pandemic.
Okay,
my
whatever
pandemic
it was.
Gym, home gym. So doing the loving kindness today, I haven't done it in a while. And may I be safe, may I be healthy. Those I feel deeply, and they feel nurturing and lovely. When it comes to may I be truly deeply happy, may I love myself unconditionally. I hear the words and I'm like, no, I'm so far from that. And then that becomes sort of a little distraction that I have to bring myself back from. I just note the disparity in how much I can
Yeah.
allow the former, but not the latter. And it's probably some kind of, maybe the love I felt from my mother felt a little unconditional. I'm sorry, conditional. And I think maybe my love for myself is conditional. That was one of the epiphanies I had during the sit.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, very few of us can offer the ideal of unconditional love 24/7 to our children or even our grandchildren. So it's likely that that was so. But here's the thing, the awareness that you aren't able to feel that fully for yourself, and then seeing that disparity, as you called it, that gap, that perception is born of caring. You'd like to close that gap.
Absolutely.
So the caring is an expression of loving kindness. You know, the first time I was introduced to the practice decades ago and offered it to myself, I started to cry. I was like, oh my God, I've never offered love to myself. I never thought of it, right? We didn't learn that in school.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Dominica. I used to come here like in 2010.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's been
right.
a long time. I always have a little bit of a problem with Mother's Day because I am a mother, but I had troubled relationship with my own mom. And so when we were going through the loving kindness, I've always had a really hard time doing that for her. And that makes me feel very guilty. So I don't want to know if there's anything that you could, I don't know, like how do you
Do
work
it
with
for yourself. Don't do it for
do it
her.
for her? Okay.
She was troubled in some way
Mhm.
and couldn't care for you the way you needed. And so do it for yourself because you care and would love to offer it to her. But right now, it's not
It
happening.
doesn't come, right, does not come.
And so you deserve some compassion and kindness for that. That's painful for you because you'd like to give it to her, but it's not happening because when you try, look, whenever we practice metta or loving kindness in any way, it's a practice to grow our capacity for love. So what do we encounter? Our problems with love. Your problem with loving your mother.
Right.
Your problem with loving yourself. You know, that's part of the practice. It's not a mistake. It's so that we see that.
Okay.
And
so
you
there's-
get to see that. It's called awareness.
That's what I was going to say.
It's
so there's
called
the awareness.
insight. It's called why we do this. Because we can't repair anything that we don't, that's outside of our awareness, right? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty.
I thank you so much for this today.
So happy
Adina.
you're here,
Me
Adina.
too. I was wondering if you could give some practical advice in how to maintain the balance in the day-to-day of service for others, for the earth, and then also that self-care for yourself. I feel like I kind of go to the extremes where I'm like, oh, okay, it's time to rest. And then I feel like I'm not of service enough. And then when I start to be of service more, I kind of lose my own needs. And so, yeah, I was wondering if you had any practical
I think what you're
advice.
describing is life.
Yeah.
I really do. Because, I mean, even Suzuki Roshi, who was this great Zen master who founded the San Francisco Zen Center and wrote the most beautiful meditation book still, called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. That book is so deep. I've never outgrown it and I never will. He said this beautiful thing. He said, life is always, we are always, whatever the oscillation is, self-care, service, I'm always falling out of balance. Life is continually falling out of balance, he said, against a backdrop of perfect balance. Like there is, when we sit down, when we take the time to meditate and can just be here, what happens? We're in balance. So just to remember, it's like an image that has helped me over the years is remembering like the stars are always shining. It's not such a great image for LA, actually. God, when I first moved here, I couldn't believe that I couldn't see any stars and or hardly a few little occasional points of light up there. And then I saw these people, they were selling star maps. And I'm like, why? Why? You can't see them. It didn't cross my mind. I don't want to tell you how many years it took before I realized they were talking about that other kind of star that we have here in Hollywood. I guess some people like to go look at houses where movie stars live. And you can go on tours and they have star maps. Anyway, an image that has helped me has over the years has been you can look at it maybe like the sun instead of the stars, but that even during the day when we don't see the stars, they are up there shining. And then night comes and we can see them. And I think it's like that with our practice and our balance. Like it's always possible. It's always present as a possibility. And sometimes we can see it and sometimes we don't have access. It's that simple. So welcome to the world. Well, to the world of caring bodhisattvas. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Trudy.
Hi.
Just going off of what you shared about
We tell everybody your name. I know your name.
Ronak. What somebody shared about like a troubled relationship with them with a parent.
Yeah.
And I feel like just similarly with this practice, I've noticed so much of like my own, if you want to call it flaws or things that that hurt me or caused me harm have been passed down from my parents, I think, and it's all multi-generational, like it's been passed down from them.
Of course, of course.
And so I feel like for me, this practice, it came to a point where when I saw that, and I still wanted to like be there and love my parents, but all the stuff was coming up, I used this practice as a way of like breaking that pattern. And then through therapy, they said that, you know, my therapist was like, well, your parents are just human. And I think as kids, we have this expectation of like, they're perfect. And so recently I've started like investing in like the feeling of safety instead of like my parents, which it's out of their control. They weren't able to, but like in nature, like something larger than human.
Yes.
And it's been very transformative.
That's
like
beautiful.
it's still a work in progress relationship with my parents, but like letting go of that expectation from them.
Yeah.
And wanting them to be a certain way, or because it was just causing a lot of like internal turmoil for me. And I think letting go of that has been really nice.
That's beautiful. We all wish they would be a certain way. You know, I wish my mom wouldn't be critical. I wish because it's painful. But then being able to come to a bigger understanding of the situation. And you already have that too when you talked about, you know, these things cascade down the generations. So that's
And if you're
very
trying to
wise.
start
Thank you.
fresh, yeah. And I also found like when a parental figure of mine passed away like a few years back, it was scary, but something unlocked within me, which was actually, it was kind of nice too. So there was like gain and loss, which I think I learned from this practice as well. So like them passing doesn't feel as scary anymore because it's like, oh, maybe something will unlock. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And then there's always impermanence too, you know. Had a funny exchange. I said this, we just talked at Wisdom 2.0. That morning, the morning before, it was Sunday. We just had family visiting nonstop. I was feeling really grumpy because we had more family arriving and people that I really wanted to see and was delighted to be with, but I was just tired. And I said to Jack in this very grouchy voice, I'm not going to the farmer's market this morning. Like this defiant declaration. And he looked at me and he said, we're only here for a short time. And I was like, you're right. Why would I talk to you in that voice? We're only here for a short time. He meant we're only here for a few days. You don't have to go to the farmer's market. But we're also only here for a short time, right? So, yeah. Anybody else want to share anything? Yeah.
Hi, Trudy. I'm Jess. Thank you so much for spending your Mother's Day with us. I was
Thank
part
you
of
for
it.
spending your Mother's Day with me.
You talked a little bit about cultivating joy, and it's been so difficult for me. I actually I think what Ronak shared, that nature practices have been really supportive, but I would say just gosh, like in the world we live in today with a lot of really difficult things that I'm going through personally, it can be so hard to cultivate joy. And I think sometimes when I hear that, it can feel, or even when I say that to myself, it can almost minimize the suffering I am going through. But I know that's not at all the intention. And I'm curious if you have any suggestions for how to, I guess, shift that perspective a little bit and find other ways to cultivate joy amidst suffering.
It's really hard, actually. I've just noticed in my own heart and mind a lot. I was talking about this with my sister. We both like the sort of innate happiness or joy of being alive is very much shadowed by the suffering in the world, by what's happening in Sudan. Sudan is the biggest humanitarian crisis in the world. By what's happening in Gaza, everyone talks about that, which is horrible, but Israel, Gaza, Sudan having this civil war. I found this picture of the Pope kissing the feet of the Sudanese leaders after South Sudan became a country, really, wishing them to be at peace. And actually, the leaders didn't start this war, it was the warlords, but whatever. It's just Burma, Democratic Republic of Congo. We can, excuse me, Myanmar, it's an act of resistance to call it Burma. We could go around the world and just depress the hell out of ourselves. And people being disappeared off our own streets in this country. That happens in other countries, not in our country, but it's happening in our country. Without due process, where's our rule of law? That's what we had, was our rule of law. That's what other countries look to us for. So I'm sympathizing and naming what we're all aware of and saying, I feel it is a Bodhisattva activity to do what we can to cultivate joy. For me, flowers help. I had a table that I loved, that I'd had it since I lived in Cambridge, and I just don't have room for it anymore, and I sold it. And the guy who came to get it, I said, this table used to be our orchid hospital. The orchids you get at Trader Joe's, and they live, but then they don't bloom. And it turns out he is a landscape architect. He knew everything. He spent time, we repotted an orchid so he could show me how. These things bring me joy. And you know what? Anyway, they respond to care, like all creatures. So it's really whatever sparks your joy. For me, what was it, that woman, Marie Kondo, who talked about the magic of tidying up and give away things that don't spark your joy? Well, she changed her tune when she had kids. But, like roll your socks in a spiral because they'll be more happy that way, and finished. but it's whatever sparks joy in you. Yeah. I also like to cook. I find it very grounding. I'm not a very good cook, but just mushing with food is very grounding.
Simple
'Cause
things.
I used to have a little garden in the cottage I rented before, but now we're in an apartment, so it's food instead of, yeah.
Thank you so much.
I also want to give a shout out to you, Lucy. I just watched one of Lucy's movies called, was it Mountain Queen? Oh my God. Well, all her movies make me cry. But I'm giving you a shout out, not just so people will watch your movies, although you should. They're beautiful, heartful, gorgeous. But because that too is a bodhisattva activity to bring art into the world that uplifts our hearts. And that helps me. Like I watched this movie about a Sherpa woman and the struggles she went through to be able, she climbed Mount Everest. This makes me cry 10 times, including when she wasn't young anymore. And she's up there right now. She got up above the ice. She's up there. Where? No, I mean, I just want, it's just a shout out to all of you who are artists. Mother's Day just brings up this gratitude for me, for all of you. Where can people see your, that one's on Netflix? Okay, Mountain Queen. It's incredible. So let's just take a moment. When you see what it's like up there, first of all, I don't know why anybody would even want to go up there, but that's another story. She comes from a mountain people. Did you have to? I came up in 2004, backed by my other Everest movie. This time I hired the people who summited. You hired the people, thank you. But you did it in 2004. Which base camp did you go to? And after that, that's in the death zone. That's in the death zone. Wow. Then that was a movie she made about blind kids summiting Everest. Oh my God. It's very nerve-wracking, but so I just would like to take one moment to send some metta to Lakpa Sherpa right this minute. Ah. Yeah. When she comes down, you can tell her she had a whole meditation group in Los Angeles praying for her. Thank you, everybody. Oh, and actually, it's that time. Look. Okay. So we are all part of an interconnected web of being. We are all part of an interconnected web of bodhisattvas. And I'd like to just sit for a moment before we close. At the end of a period of study and practice together, We reflect on whatever has been useful or beneficial. And we do a kind of blessing, offering, prayer. We offer the goodness of our practice to all beings everywhere without exception. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Well, that was a punctuation. And when it says causes of suffering and causes of happiness, and that's where we come in, the choices we make, the actions we take. So happy Bodhisattva Mother's Day, everybody. And I want to give a shout out to InsightLA as well as to Alexis and our volunteers. I don't know your name. Samantha. See, I made name tags. Of course, I probably wouldn't be able to see it from here, but InsightLA really depends on all of our generosity. And on these holidays, in Buddhist countries, on these holidays, you give. It's just part of it. And it's part of, every place needs support. And in these days, more than ever. But I always think of, it's so ironic because in order to have a place where people can just sit and do nothing, it's really expensive, especially in LA, which is kind of crazy, but just keep InsightLA in mind. And thank you everybody for coming this morning. Thank you so much. Oh, and before you leave, turn to somebody next to you and introduce yourself before you go have your bagel. Just say hi to somebody near you. Thank you.